All right, so won't get started, but I will kind of start some small talk so we're not just awkwardly staring at each other. How's everyone's summer been going? You can feel free to chat in or come off mute. It's definitely been a really fast summer.
I've had a good summer. It was like really busy though, but very much fun.
That's awesome. Um, Grace said that she didn't get enough beach time. They wished it was longer. I definitely agree. Um, is your name Khan or Khan, if you don't mind? Katie, got it. Thank you, Katie. Okay, so Katie, you had summer classes. Okay. Well, hopefully you had some time to enjoy some summer activities like the beach. Yeah, more beach time would have been nice. I feel like there's too much rain for beach. Every time I decided to go, it was a rainy weekend. Yep, very rainy. Awesome. I'm glad y'all had like a semi-decent summer at least. It seems like a lot of you had fun. Did anyone try anything new? Ooh, a cactus taco. Wakeboarded. Ooh, Grace, you have to tell me more. I'm not sure what that is.
I
Well,
tried a
thank
bunch
us.
of vegetables from the farmer's market for the first time.
Ooh, that's always good. And they sell for so much cheaper. I wish I knew how to cook them. I would definitely buy more. Well, awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing. Can we get started with introductions? I'll start us off and then I will popcorn it to someone. So I am Sarah. I am the program manager for Access and Transition Core, as well as Transition Core Plus. I went to Dickinson College and graduated in 2020 with a bachelor's degree in English. And if I could know everything about any topic, it would definitely be medicine. I've always loved helping and caring for people, so knowing how to treat something in like a non-doctory way would be really awesome. It's like if I look at you, I'm like, oh, you have a cold, just take some herbs or drink this tea and you'll be fine. I would love to do that. And now I will just popcorn it over to Nava.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nava. I use they, them pronouns. I went to Haverford College and I was a political science major. And I was hiring for the core program this past spring, and I'm going to be in a curriculum focus and development focused role this coming year. And if I could know everything about any topic, it would definitely be functional anatomy, which is similar to Sarah's answer, but yet just like understanding like the human body and the tissues and the muscles and the bones and how they all connect and how that impacts how we move around as people. So that's my answer. And I'm going to popcorn to Grace.
Hey everyone, I'm Grace. I'm the Chief Program Officer here at Let's Get Ready. And I'm really excited to be here and to meet all of you. I'm excited you're here. I went to Mount Holyoke College a long time ago, which you can probably tell from my not so youthful face. And I majored in geology, which at the time was largely because I liked field trips. And I didn't have a near peer mentor to like help me think through strategically what kind of major I might want to have and how that could connect to my future career. But I'm really good on hikes, identifying rocks. And if I could know everything about a topic, it would probably be like DIY, like fixer-upper kind of like how to do plumbing and electricity and things like that, because I am a total failure at those things and they come in really handy. And I'm going to start us off. What I'll do is I'll kind of popcorn to one of our coaches, and then if you all could you could kind of popcorn to the next person, that would be great. So Faye, I'm going to popcorn to you. And as we do this, if you're comfortable coming on camera, we'd love to see your face. It's okay if you need to turn it off while you eat or do something else, but if you're comfortable, we'd love to see your face. So Faye, we'd love to hear from you next.
Hi everyone, my name is Faye. I go by any pronouns, but I do prefer they, them. I currently am a psychology major at the City College of New York. And if I could know anything about any topic, I would say I would want to know everything there is to know about biology, because I actually did want to major in biology at some point, and I wish I knew more because it's actually something that's very interesting. Oh, do I popcorn to somebody else? Okay.
Please.
I think I'm gonna popcorn it to Janelli. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Is generally.
Oh, Janelli. Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenny. I use she, her pronouns. I go to Union College, which is like upstate New York. And right now I'm debating my major between biology and chemistry. So I'm trying to figure that out this upcoming term. And if I could know everything about any topic, I think it would be animals. I think they're just all like very curious and they like all have very specific personalities. So it's just kind of cool. Oh, sorry, I forgot a popcorn. Amanda.
Hi everyone, my name is Amanda. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm a rising sophomore at Columbia and I'm thinking of majoring in civil engineering. And if I could know everything about one topic, it'd probably be cameras because I still don't get how they're like able to process what we see. And I'm gonna popcorn it to Katie.
My name's Katie. I use she, her pronouns. I'm currently a psych major at UCLA. And if I could know everything about any topic, I probably want to know more about behavioral psychology because my school doesn't really have like a behavioral psychology class. And I want to know about I just want to learn about the behavior and emotions of like us human beings. I will popcorn to Maria, if I said that right.
Hi, my name's Kamara. I go by she, her pronouns, and I currently attend Lehman College, and my major is health education and promotion. And if I could know everything about one topic, it would be film and like being a director because I like watching movies.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I'm just double checking to make sure I don't miss anyone. Okay, cool. So we're all good. Thank you all so much for your introduction. So now I will invite you all to either come off mute or chat in what trends you're noticing around what students might be needing, thinking, or worried about this fall for both high school and college students. So I think maybe you can even put yourself back in your shoes when you were a high school student, or even think about things that you're thinking, needing, or worried about this fall as you start to begin your fall semester. And definitely feel free to pop into the chat or come off mute. And yeah, we'll add some notes. SATs, yes, definitely. Applying for college, for sure. Filling out all the financial aid forms like the CSS profile and FAFSA. Applying for financial aid and scholarships, definitely. Support and guidance for first year students. Awesome. Yeah, definitely think about your first year of college too, or even your second year. What might be some things that you're worried or thinking about, or things that you might need. Thinking of college when you can't visit them, which can make moving to college more stressful, definitely. Deciding what to major in and what clubs to join. Something what you need to bring to your dorm, definitely. I definitely overpacked my first year, and it was not fun for my brother and mom. Looking for internships. Oh yeah, it's a huge one. College is the best fit, or if you want to take a gap year. Ooh. Awesome. Okay, I think we have a pretty decent list. And so Grace, if you don't mind, I guess exiting and then going back into presentation mode for the notes.
Totally. I honestly was scared to do it.
Oh,
I'm afraid of the presentation mode is so odd, but I will do that. I need to get over my fear.
no worries.
So let me go ahead and do that. Sorry, everyone. Let's see if that works.
So while Grace is doing that, some things that can definitely add
And I'll go
are
back a slide. There we go. Can y'all
awesome.
see
Thank
it?
you. Yes.
Oh, now we're on the next slide.
Thank you, Grace. Oh, okay, we're on the next slide.
I'm really sorry, everyone. I promise I'll get it together. It's still early in the session. I promise I'll get better at the slides.
Awesome.
Cool.
Okay,
What a
thank
great
you.
list.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Great list. And then just some things I want to add about too is the personal statement. Some changes have been made. So I'm really curious to see what students are going to do with their personal statements this year. And then also like being good enough, having pressure from their family, having pressure from their peers around them, or even their counselors to go to good schools or whatever it is, or just being worried about being good enough to attend college. And then the pressure of senior year as fun, like a fun your last year, so you should have fun, but then also worrying about grades and making sure you're passing. And even like the political climate, what's going on now with the world can definitely be something to worry about. And then y'all did great with the college side, probably because you're all in college. But definitely like new courses, especially when you're transitioning from high school to college, your first year, your courses are gonna be so much more different. So being worried about that. Any unpredictable health crisis, needing to find like a part-time job on campus. So there's definitely a lot that students can be worried about. But thank you all so much for adding to this list. So as you were working with your young people, it's always helpful to try to think about whatever they're going through from their perspective, whether you're going through the same thing yourself or navigated just a few years ago. It'll help to consider different perspectives and emotions to find the best way to support your students as they're navigating their applications or their first day or first semester of college. Awesome. So now I'll pass it on to Grace.
So it's exactly this group's expertise, the fact that you're living through these experiences or you've recently lived through these experiences that Let's Get Ready kind of relies on in terms of this program, right? There's lots of programs that help kids through college, but what makes Let's Get Ready special is it's all about connecting near peers, which is you guys, to young people, to provide that guidance, to provide that support, and to be able to kind of empathize with young people's experiences. What we've heard over and over again from our, at this point, 50,000 young people that Let's Get Ready has served, that the key for them has been having access to a college student who can help them navigate, who can show them the way, and who can kind of be the proof that, like, you know, that they can make it through, that they can find their way. And so I'm going to show you a little bit of the inside into how Let's Get Ready works. So we are here to kind of leverage the power of near peers to help students navigate to and through college, and really to end their process whole, like to have had a good academic experience and a good financial experience, and to overcome barriers that they might face trying to get into and get through college. So this is how Let's Get Ready is structured and how it works. So don't worry too much about like all the details of this. I'll kind of walk you through. So there are 3 parts of Let's Get Ready. Let's Get Ready supports students their junior year, their senior year, and then through college, whether that takes 4 years or 5 years or 6 years. We're here for them all the way through that trajectory. Now, some of our students start with us their junior year of high school. Some of our students don't start with us until their first year of college and or second year of college, and any of that's fine. But we have support for students all throughout. That's all offered through like coaches like yourselves. So where you see on the far left is the Access program. None of you, actually, that's not true. The Access program is our program for juniors, and this helps students get ready for the application and financial aid process. So you all are working in the CORE program. So everywhere you see CORE, that's our light touch text-based programming. So you are going to be just texting with students. And so the CORE program for Access is high school juniors who say, like, yeah, I need some support getting through, figuring out what college is all about. Do I want to go? And what might I need to do my senior year? And so that's what that conversation is all about. Some of you will be working with those students. As students move into their senior year, they also have a 2-way text program available to them. And that's what some of you will be working with, those high school seniors. And that's all about getting guidance to get into school, application, financial aid process, decision-making process, and kind of social and emotional preparation for getting into college. We also offer a Core Plus program, and none of you will be working in the Core Plus program. This is for students who select to have like a higher touch one-on-one relationship with just one coach. And you'll probably see there'll be different moments that we recruit into that program, but just to be clear, like that's not the program that y'all are working in. And then for our high school seniors, we offer the Success program, and some of you will be working with our our college students from freshman year all the way through. If they need 5 or 6 years, that's fine. And that's all about persistent support. So that's all about navigating those, like, registering for classes, and, what if I get a FAFSA verification, and how do I talk to my professors? And you all will be working with students in the CORE programs. That's the light touch, like 2-way text. And again, those students have the option of signing up for really high touch program with a one-on-one relationship with the coach. That's not what y'all are working in. You guys are sort of that core band all the way across. So we just wanted to make sure that you knew like what kind of experiences your students might have had before they came to you or after they came to you, just so that you feel really well grounded in what's Let's Get Ready here to do, and what are students experiencing as they move through our program. Any questions? Amazing. I will pass the mic.
Thanks for the mic. Okay, so I'm going to be talking through, there's like a wonderful team of people that are here to support you in various ways this year. So I'm going to orient you to who all those people are. So some of you are going to be supervised by Sarah, and some of you are going to be supervised by the new Success Program Manager. In the meantime, your supervisor for the next couple of weeks is going to be Audrey, who is the Director of College Success. I'm also introducing you to Liz, who is Sarah's supervisor and is the Director of College Access. So those are going to be the people really focused on program implementation. I am the senior product manager, which basically means I'm the one who writes the curriculum that goes out that your students are going to receive. And Grace, who is my supervisor, is also the chief program officer, so kind of oversees all of the happenings with program. And there's other people at Let's Get Ready who do work that will positively impact you in other ways as well. But this is probably like your main 6 people that are gonna be like the closest touch points, your 2 supervisors and the 4 other people who work closest. So that's that. So I'm also going to talk about what the core program is generally, because I was the person running the core program for a couple of years, and it's near and dear to my heart. So this year, core is big. We're serving 17,000 students, high school juniors and seniors, and all college years, including basically people who are still enrolled in college and theoretically started 5 and 6 years ago. So like the quote unquote delayed enrollment. In that way, we're also serving delayed enrollment students who are students who've graduated high school and have not yet started college, and students who are taking time off from college but are interested in returning in the future. So we send these students a standard central curriculum through our text platform, Mainstay. They get about 1 message every week, which is meant to either nudge them and or provide general resources, remind them that the Let's Get Ready team is here for anything they might need. And that is a curriculum that I write. And the heart and soul of the core program is the core coaches who respond to all messages received from core students with encouragement, resources based on the situation that the student is in, help them troubleshoot any life situations, school situations, ask probing questions to learn more and help the students think more about their lives, etc. All that good stuff. I'm also going to talk about the core program goals for the year. So the first goal is that students get quick responses to their texts. Your role is to reply to each message received within 24 hours. To give some context about how we chose 24 hours, it felt like the sweet spot between centering student needs and centering coach needs. So we want students to hear back from coaches soon enough that it does feel like a texting conversation. It doesn't feel like when you're emailing your college's financial aid office and you never know how long it will be until you hear back from them. So create some sense of immediacy. But we also we care about work-life balance a lot. We didn't want coaches to feel trapped on their computers. And so checking every day when coaches get to check when each day, get to choose when each day that they check, felt like a really good compromise. Like it felt doable for coaches in conversations with them, and it's worked the last couple of years. And so that's why we have chosen 24 hours. The next bit is that we want students to engage with us. So our goals are at least 60% of transition students and 40% of success students engage over text 1 time in a year. The reason we choose 1 time is because if a student engages once, it's a sign that's like their way of showing us that they're there, which means theoretically they're getting our text every week and know that they could reach out every week. They're just choosing to the times when they need us. The rest of the time they're not engaging because they don't need to. So our role is to try to get people to reply. So I write a research-informed and as relevant as possible text curriculum to go out to students, and I try to make them be messages that will invite students to reply. Your role as coaches is to make those replies count. So when you get those texts from students, starting conversations with a warm tone, and you'll decide what a warm tone means to you, in a helpful response. And we'll work all really closely together to make sure that you know exactly how to give those helpful responses. The next goal is identifying students who are at risk quickly and making sure that they are supported. When I say students who are at risk, there are a couple different things that I mean there. The first is just concerns about immediate safety. This does not come up often, but it does occasionally. The main 2 are lacking resources for basic mental and physical wellness, and concerns about college retention. So when I say college retention, we're just talking about any time a student is encountering a barrier that prevents them from getting to and through school, and they otherwise would like to be enrolled in school. So your role in this is to follow protocol. That will be really thorough, simple protocol for you to follow if you identify a student at risk in any of these ways, and to send any concerning student messages to your program manager immediately. So you're not dealing with these on your own. The last bit is students receiving the right messages and resources for their situation. So your role there is to just keep an eye out if students seem to be in the wrong channel. Like if someone is like, I'm in college, and they're in a channel where you are sending them tips for how to apply to college, or the reverse, if it's messages about how to navigate college finals and the person is like, I'm 15, like that's probably in the wrong place. And so like letting your program manager know, there will be thorough, there will be steps for how to move them. And then the other bit is for making sure students receive the right messages, is to use all of the resources available to you to share the best and most helpful information with students, like articles about how to navigate different aspects of college, researching their school on the internet, and sharing personal anecdotes from your own life or your friends' lives that will be helpful to them. Here are the different student groups that are a part of the core program. So we have the road to college, the road through college, and the road back to college. So for the road to college, we have Access Core, which is students getting ready to apply. So 11th graders. There is also Core Apply, which is applying to college. It's basically the 12th grade route. So we have applying to college, choosing where to go, making sure they don't experience summer melt. Seniors. Then we have the road through college, which is all college years 1 through 4, but also we support students who haven't yet graduated 1 and 2 years out from when they would have had their 4-year graduation. We also support students on the road back to college. And we have 2 specific branches there. People taking time off where they're like, I'm taking a semester off, but then I'm coming back. And people taking an indefinite break, but who have told us we would like to return in the future. And so keep us on your caseloads until, or for the time being. And those are the different groups. Anyone got any questions about any of that? All right.
So Nava explained to you all the different, I guess, namings or categories of these students. These are all your groups. So the weekly workloads should all roughly be equivalent. So it might look like you have more or less in how it's ordered, but it should roughly be the same. Any questions about this? If not, I will pass it back to Nava.
So here we just have a lovely graphic showing like the weekly cadence, like everything we just talked about all the different moving parts of core. So kind of the origin is the LGR staff writing and sending out the weekly text curriculum. Then students receive those texts on their phones, just like a text message from LGR. And then if they reply, coaches receive any student responses in their inbox on their computer. And then each week coaches will reply and start up some conversations with students, and the students get to be on their phone replying. So it's cool that there's all this work on the back end, but all the student is experiencing is a simple text conversation on their phone, which is what we're all about. And we're now going to move into talking about the curriculum. And the first activity is going to be some reflection time that I'm going to lead. So this is a chance to think about yourself just as a student yourself, as a young person yourself. And so I'd love for each of you to take a minute to think about each of these prompts, and then I'll ask that you put a reflection, some type of answer, either in the chat or you can unmute and say out loud, but we'd just love to kind of get some group thinking going on here. In your own experience as a texter, when do you reply to text messages? And when do you find yourself leaving people on read? There's no shame here. I do it. I have answers. I'm curious what all of your answers would be to that. So let's take 40 seconds, and then you can put an answer in the chat or say out loud. Yeah, I can start us off, which is I'll reply to texts if, oh, actually, great, Faye. You reply when you remember that you didn't actually respond. So when it's like on your mind, that totally makes sense. See, Amanda, I don't reply when people send statements or close-ended comments. Right. Chimera, I only leave people on read once I feel like the conversation is starting to dwindle down or it has finished. Katie, I usually reply once I see a text, and I don't reply if I'm super busy with studying or in class. Seems like you are all better texters than me. That's impressive. So we have Jenna Lee, I respond if we're having a conversation. When the other person says something short, like, okay, then I assume the conversation is done. Right. I'll add, I'm great at replying if there's like, we're meeting up that day. Like, of course, it's on my mind and I'll reply, or like that's like some kind of positive incentive, right? We get shared time together. And if the text is about a topic that's stressing me out, I am less likely to reply, not because I don't want to engage in the conversation, but I'll put it off. I'll want to think more about what to say. And sometimes that gets in the way of sending a, like I might forget if I'm like, I have to figure out how to explain this complicated thing. So it's something that I keep in mind when I'm writing text curriculum. It's like, how do I send messages that will make people want to reply and won't trigger any of their like avoidance responses or make them like less likely to reply? So we got another one, which is in your own experience with to-do lists and getting tasks and chores and assignments done. What makes you actually get something done? And what makes certain tasks, if you have any, maybe y'all don't because you seem really on top of things, but what would make certain things like live on your to-do lists for months or make you put things off? So let's take 30 seconds and think about it. Okay, I see from Faye, we have lack of motivation and long deadlines. Like if it's months away, then I'm not going to do it now. Totally. So we have from Chimera, I feel like I have a lot of time to do it. I'll keep putting it off. Yep. From Amanda, the task seems too large or multi-layered. Yes, generally, it doesn't feel like it's urgent. Yeah, a lot of stuff about lack of urgency here. And then from Katie, if the task is important and has a deadline, I will get it done ASAP. Exactly. It's like the reverse of when people aren't getting it done. Grace, I feel like I'll do it if there's consequences. Yeah, that makes sense. And Sarah is feeling like she's getting called out. That's okay. So am I. I'll add one thing, which is for me, like if it's like the task is tangled with like another task that I really don't want to do, then like even if the original task I would like to get done, like if it's triggering my avoidance because it's connected to another kind of hairy task, then they both might suffer for that. Or if I don't know where to start, I really need to know where to start for things. Great. Okay, this was fun exercise. And again, these are all things that I'm thinking about when I write texts to students because we have to tell them to do things that are usually not that fun or appealing a lot of the time. Like filling out FAFSA, figuring out course registration, they can be kind of stressful. And when you're going to be texting students, you'll also want to keep in mind, how can I suggest a task to a student in a way that's not going to make them feel overwhelmed and lazy and put their phone away? So thanks for reflecting with me. I'll pass it back to Grace.
Awesome. So I'm not going to read this slide to you, but there is a lot of science behind what Nava just described. Like, what does it take to text a student and have them actually take a next step? And it's under the headline of nudging. You might have heard it in other contexts, like a company might text you to try to get you to do something or email you. And that the science behind the like behavioral economics of that is called nudging. And sort of like, how do you get somebody to take a next step on something? And for us, we're trying to get them to take a next step on talking to their advisor or having that conversation with that professor that they're putting off. It's about providing positive reinforcement. It's providing like just a little like being like, hey, like what's going on with this thing, in a way that, as Nava said, isn't going to like promote anxiety, isn't going to have a kid shut off, is like just nudgy enough, but like just positive enough, has some of that consequence or that urgency. There's like literally a science to like how much urgency to use, how far to break it down. Somebody mentioned kind of breaking tasks down. So that's really like what Nava is thinking about as they are thinking about the curriculum that gets pushed out. And it doesn't hurt for you to know some of the science behind like what we know makes really good texting and really effective texting, because y'all will be texting students as well. And so if we get that right, if we get that balance right, students are more likely to take action or are more likely to reply. And as Nava mentioned earlier, like we don't need students to reply, but if they reply, then we now know something about how they're doing and we can better tailor like how we support them next. Like if they reply to you and you are smart about like, you know, replying back and keeping the conversation going, you're learning about them what they actually need support around. And so if we do our job right and we use nudging science well, then hopefully students won't avoid our texts.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so let's talk about these curriculum texts that I'm writing and that all your students are going to be receiving. So there's a bunch of basic principles that I aim for with all of these texts to like kind of correctly tap or to effectively tap into students' psychology to meet them where they're at. So the first is to make these texts actionable. So wanting the message to outline a clear course of action. You want it to be obvious, like what you're asking students to do, and make it feel like an accessible ask. The next is easy, simple steps. So providing a resource or link to kind of simplify something complicated, and to just make it clear what, again, like what we're asking of students. So we want it to be like a bite-sized task that the student can reach out and do. The next is sometimes including a bit of cost benefit analysis. So either showing the benefits, the positive incentives of doing the task, or helping the student understand what the cost would be of failing to do the task. Stuff like if you create that study group, you're more likely to do well in the final, or filling out FAFSA ASAP is important because some of the aid is first come, first serve. It basically gives the student a why. The next is timely. A bunch of you talked about if something doesn't need to be done for ages, you're not going to do it right now. And so again, when we're sending students tasks, we are referring to stuff that would be best done within like the next week so that it does feel timely for students. They won't be tempted to put it off. The next bit is peer norm oriented. So basically normalizing either how students often feel about that topic, or how common it is for students to deal with it. Stuff like senior year can be rough, especially trying to find a job while you're in school. A lot of people visit the career service office. So first of all, norming that a lot of people are going to use that service that we're suggesting you use. And secondly, that senior year is generally rough. You're not special and unlucky for finding this year difficult. It is normal. The next bit is making the texts personalized when possible. So having stuff like including the student's first name, which there's a way to do that on Mainstay, which is cool. Either referring to specific stuff like their college or the state that they live in, or whether or not they've completed FAFSA, so that the student feels like that text is going to them personally. And the next bit and the last bit is making the texts eye-catching. So stuff like emojis, GIFs, images. Obviously, don't want to like overdo it in like a cringy millennial way, but it is fun to have the text be pop for students and have it not just be a huge mountain of words. So that's the curriculum text.
So now we'll go into breakout rooms in a few moments for this activity. So each of you will be working with students at specific moments in their college journey. So Amanda and Faye, you'll be working with high school students who are learning about and preparing for college and financial aid applications. And Kimera and Janelli and Katie, you'll be working with college students who are navigating all the things you and your fellow college students are navigating. So for the next 5 minutes, you'll be in breakout rooms with another person who'll be working with students at the same stage, and you'll brainstorm based on what you already know about the age and stage of the students you're working with. The question, what support topics do you think we'll be texting students about? So essentially, you'll all be in breakout rooms with your counterparts who are working with the same students, and you'll be kind of thinking about what support topics you think that we'll be texting students about. So I'm gonna put this slide deck into the chat, a different slide deck into the chat, and that'll be where you'll be taking notes, and then you'll find your respective slides. And so once you're back from the breakout room, I'll ask a representative from your group to share what you spoke about. Any questions? Sorry, the instructions might have been a little confusing, but does anyone have any questions? I don't think there are any questions, hopefully. Grace, if you don't mind, can you put everyone in breakout rooms and then we will see y'all back in 5 minutes. All right, welcome back, everyone. I hope you had some great time working with other coaches on this. So if I can just get a representative from each group to share a couple of key themes that you found as you were working on this. So the first group was there's someone from the first group who were working on with high school students. If you can come off mute and share.
So me and Amanda, what we discussed was like basically our main point was to try to do a lot of research when you're in high school about what you may or may not want to do. Let it be about like researching your majors, different financial aid plans, college list, but also support programs such as Let's Get Ready or any other mentorship programs that schools may offer or options besides college. So essentially, we just came up with do a lot of research about what you might want to do. Yeah.
Definitely, thank you so much. And then just to add to that, a part of researching also like preparing with essays or resume to help you really flush out your applications. And then like just having a general idea of the process. So some students might not know that they need to research schools or that they need to build a list to be able to apply to. So definitely those things too. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And then if I can have the college student group share out, that'd be great.
So the main thing that we like wrote down was that we should like for college students transferring or first year and second year, that like we should like find resources on campus and talking to our academic counselors to figure out like what we want to do. And like even if we don't know what we want to do yet, meeting with an academic advisor could help us with that. And we also had a lot in common about joining clubs and like familiarizing ourselves with like resources on campus.
Definitely, thank you so much. Definitely like your social needs, navigating academics, experiences, and really just caring for yourself too. And so thank you all so much for working on this activity. And big thing I kind of want to highlight is just that most of Red Text also aims to kind of highlight things that students don't typically think about too or don't know about. So yeah, thank you all so much. So we'll move on to the next slide. which is another activity. So do y'all remember in a couple slides before where we showed you your caseload assignments? It's okay if you don't, I will put it in the chat just in case. So I will give you all, oh, okay, Faye, you do remember. So I will give you all a few minutes, like 1 or 2 minutes, to look at the example messages in this spreadsheet. So check out the curriculum that correlates with your caseload and pull out an example of a text that shares valuable information and a text that provides an opening to what you think students respond to. So I'll also put those prompts in here so you can take a look. So open up the spreadsheet, find those 2 examples based on your caseload, which is also in the chat. Any questions about that? Okay, cool. So I will ask you all to share in about 2 minutes at 2:59. All right, can I get 1 or 2 coaches to share the text that you chose for these 2 prompts?
Possible folks might still be orienting to the doc. I might need an extra minute or so. Could somebody give us a thumbs up if it would be helpful to have another minute to keep looking through the document and find a text? Cool. All right, great. We'll give a little more time. And if you haven't noticed, at the bottom are some tabs at the bottom of the spreadsheet. So just from an orientation standpoint, there's some tabs at the bottom that can help you find your way. So we'll give you a little bit more time. All right, I'll know that y'all are ready when I see folks start to pop a text into the chat here. Just go ahead and copy and paste a text from the curriculum that you think looks like it would be useful. Awesome. Thank you so much, Camara. So fall semester tuition deadline. Awesome. With a tip sheet, right? And a request for kind of scale 1 to 10. Tell me what you think. Thank you, Amanda. Okay, Amanda pulled the same one. Amazing. Spring classes, generally, spring classes are starting tomorrow. 8 days left. So we see like some of that urgency, right, that we talked about being important. Anything, inviting them to talk about how they're feeling about their schedule. Hope you're enjoying the end of the school year. Thank you, Katie. Remember that you don't have to do it alone. Awesome. Great. And you all have this document now, and you'll be looking through it each week with your program manager. We'll tell you more about that in a little bit. But this hopefully just kind of gives you a general sense of what are your students going to be receiving from Let's Get Ready on their phones that then will prompt them to respond. So you'll see, like, based on these texts, you might get like a 1 through 10 response, or you might get an emoji, or you might get, you know, a verbal response, or you might get a kid coming back with a question, right? There's a lot of variety in terms of what we ask students to contribute based on that curriculum. Amazing. Any questions come up for folks? At this point, you've now seen and heard a lot about what your students will receive from us. We're about to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about your part of the job. Your part of, like, okay, now that they've responded, what do you do? But I wonder if anyone has any questions or comments about kind of what you've learned so far about the curriculum that your students will be receiving. Amazing. I'm going to pass it to Nava before we go on break time, because we have somebody to introduce to you. So Nava, take it away.
Indeed. Yeah. So I just wanted to take a chance to welcome Audrey to this meeting. Audrey is the Director of Success, and so is the supervisor of the new program manager who will be directly managing all of you that are working with college students. And in the meantime, for the next couple of weeks, Audrey is going to be your supervisor. So I'll give her a chance to say hey.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. Sorry I'm joining a little bit late, but looking forward to getting to know you all in the second half of training. So, hi.
Awesome. Welcome, Audrey. We're glad you're here. And we're going to take a break as promised. So the time right now is 3:05. And we ask that you all come back here at 3:10 on,
just so that you can give the student a sense that they are known and they're seen. Maybe more so than you actually do know them, just a little bit, just to create that sense that, like, of familiarity with them, because you are their only core coach.
Amazing. We're gonna do some practice together and some looking together at some real text exchanges between students and their coaches. So I want everyone to take a minute and go ahead and find your annotation tool at the toolbar up above. I know sometimes these don't show up for everyone, so I do want to, like, have everyone double check and make sure they have one. And in that blue box in the upper right-hand corner, I want you to go ahead and put a stamp, because we're going to need a stamp. So if you can go ahead, take a minute, find the annotation tool, grab a stamp. It's under the little checkbox, and you can pick whatever stamp you want. It doesn't matter. And go ahead and put that stamp in that upper right-hand corner. Go ahead and do that now, and then come off of mute and let me know if you're having trouble, if you're not able to do this. So I put a red heart. Amazing. Faye's got a star. Jenny, I see your check mark. Amanda's coming in with her star. Awesome. Katie, is that you with the blue circle?
I did the strange oval. That was me. Sorry.
Okay, strange oval. Okay, cool. In terms of coaches, I think Katie, how are you doing? And Camara. All right, Katie's got a star. Camara, I see you coming in. Looks like everyone's good. Awesome. So here's what I'd love for you to do now that you've got a handle on the annotation tool. I'd love for you to take a minute and read both of these text exchanges. And just to kind of orient you, the gray text is from Let's Get Ready. And the green text is, sorry, not green, the blue text is from the student. So take a minute and read both of those. I want you to notice what you see. I'd love for somebody to come off of mute and tell me, what do you notice about the student's response? Just like basic, what do you notice?
Student is like opening up to their coach about like them struggling with classes.
Yep, great. Student kind of is a little closed in the beginning, trying to figure out what's going on, and then you see them start to open up. Awesome. Great, thank you. Talk to me about, I'd love for somebody else to tell me, what do you notice about the coach response? So you'll see up at the very top, that script, that comes from Let's Get Ready, but everything else is from the coach. Tell me a little bit about what you notice the coach doing.
I noticed that the coach is using like kind of like motivational interviewing in a way where
Yeah,
they ask open-ended questions to the students and kind of affirms them in a way, and
yes.
also uses reflection to make sure that they're understanding what the student is actually saying to them.
I love that. All of those are such key parts of this, right? Like affirming, reflecting, probing questions. Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you, Kamara. Anyone want to add anything else that you notice this coach doing? So I'd love for everyone to get out their handy dandy annotate tools and go ahead and put a stamp next to one of those kind of key pillars that Nava explained. You'll see the icon over on the left. Go ahead and tell me by putting a stamp next to the ones that you think this coach is doing really well. You can move your stamp. You can put a new stamp. But let's decorate that set of icons on the left. Great. I see folks noticing their use of context, looking for signs of trouble, right? They're probing a little bit more. Can you tell me more? Using great probing questions. Awesome. This coach handled this really well. And I just want to kind of also point out, you'll see the students sort of like, who is this? I don't think we've mentioned this yet, but quite a few of our students are automatically enrolled in this program by their institution. And so in the beginning, especially in the beginning of the program, you're going to get a lot of like, what is this? How did I end up here? So you'll see that coach had to deal with that as well. So I think this coach generally, right, has a really warm tone. They're asking probing questions. They are kind of sharing something about themselves. They are closing with a doable promise, right? They're offering some tangible support. They're not over offering, we'll find a way together. That's like really kind, but they're not saying like, I will solve this thing for you. I've got your back. Awesome. Any questions or comments about this one before we try another one? All right. I'm going to ask everyone here to try one. So this is a curriculum campaign text from Let's Get Ready. And the student has responded in blue. So take a minute to read the text from Let's Get Ready, the campaign that got sent out, read the student's response. And in the chat, I would love for everyone, for each person, to put in the chat what you might say next as a coach. And you're not being judged or evaluated. You're in a training right now. So don't worry about making it perfect. So read it and put your response in the text. All right, I'd love to see folks starting to give it a try. How might you respond to this student's text? Don't worry about making it perfect. Or you could come off a mute if that would be easier for you. What do you think the student needs to hear? What advice might you offer? What resource might you connect them to? Mara, thanks for being the first one. Mara's empathizing with the student, understands what this is like, is going to offer some tips and offer some like, hey, we got this. Let's work on this together. Amazing. Thank you, Faye. Awesome. Faye is celebrating the fact that they were able to get the classes that they were looking for. Lets the student know that they empathize with the motivation, offering to send some suggestions. I think that's great. And for both of those texts, remember, you don't need to wait for the student to say like, yes, I would like those resources, but like, you obviously don't have all the resources in your fingertips right now. You'll have them once you finish the training, but you would just go ahead then and send the tips that you think would be useful. Katie, celebrating that they got the classes, providing that empathy, and offering a tip. Fantastic. Thank you so much to the three of you for giving it a shot and putting your ideas out there. This is exactly right. So some of these kind of key tenets showing up in each of these responses. Maybe you share a specific example for yourself. For me, instead of fighting against my resistance to work, I find it helpful to take a moment to reflect on what my obstacles are, and then maybe asking a follow-up question like, do you have any thoughts about what might be getting in your way, right? So kind of getting into that conversation, making sure that, you're not just saying like, yeah, that is hard. Like, here's some ideas, bye, right? But saying like, here's what it's like for me. Like, what do you think might be getting in your way? Kind of, how do you keep that conversation going? Great start. And with your program manager, so Sarah, for those of you who are working with high school students, and for Audrey for a little bit until Audrey is able to finalize the hire of their amazing new program manager. You'll be talking to Audrey, and then your new program manager for the college folks working with the college students. You guys will talk through messages. They'll pull examples and provide feedback and go through, hey, here's what you might do next time. Here's what you might add. So this was a great start. Thank you all for giving this a try. I'm going to skip for the sake of time the next example, but I do want to give you a chance to look at how this coach did respond. So this is how the coach in the last page responded. She did a lot of the norming and the tip suggestion that some of you offered. She asked that open-ended follow-up question at the end to help keep that conversation going. Student feels heard. The coach is affirmed. Coach is given a resource. And instead of just like letting that resource sit there, the coach was like, and is this resource helpful to you? Is there something else that you need? I'm curious for any coaches to come off a mute or go ahead and put it in the chat. Is there anything that you would improve about this response from the coach? Anything that you personally would add? Something that you think they missed? Yeah, I think it's a pretty solid, pretty solid response. I would say that the one thing I might add is like a little bit more of a probing question at the end, you know, to kind of keep that conversation going. Maybe asking more about the student's own experience, like, you know, what are some of those barriers? What's getting in the way for you? Might lead to a more authentic conversation. But I think this is a really great coach response. So now you all are starting to see, okay, curriculum's going out. It's important for me to respond in a way that's warm and encouraging and empathizing. You're starting to see some actual conversations, and you're practicing getting your responses in your own words. So we are making great progress right now. Thank you so much to all of you. And we'll keep on cruising here. I'm going to skip this next one. But what I did want to do is just talk briefly about what is and is not your role. So Nava shared with you what is your role, and that's what's on the left-hand side. I want you to take a minute to read a couple ideas I shared about what's not your role on the right-hand side. Go ahead and take a look at those, and I'm going to ask everyone to share another idea about what's not your role. Is there anything anyone would add to this list? You can come off a mute or pop it in the chat. What else do you think is not your role as a coach?
I would say that we aren't the student's therapist, because some students can get it like confused, like the lines of boundaries.
Absolutely. Jenny, was that you?
No, it was Camara.
Oh, Camara, I'm sorry. My Zoom isn't popping up when somebody's name, when somebody's speaking. Thanks so much, Camara. That's a great one. You are not the therapist. Awesome. What else would you say is the difference? What's not your role? Or let's get ready staff, if there's anything you feel like is missing from this list that's important to call out.
I just added in the chat, offer relationship advice.
Great. Yep.
You're also not the student's like researcher. Like for small isolated things, you can look up the answer for a student, sure. And if you have time, you can go a little more in depth. But sometimes students will say, I need to apply to this type of program. Can you research what they are for me? And generally, I would say you can lean towards not directly saying no, but finding a way to like push the student, like, I can give you some suggestions for how to research it yourself, but I can't research that for you. And it's okay to say when a request is so in depth that you can't fulfill it. And
Sure.
it's okay to reference having like a lot of other students. So yeah, you're also not
Sure.
a student's researcher.
Or even just like share the link to your favorite search engine and say, this is my favorite search engine. And like, what you're going to want to do is identify your top 3 criteria and like, go ahead and put it in. Like, what would you say your top 3 criteria are? Like, what matters to you most, right? So it's like, you're kind of putting it back on them. You're in conversation with them. You're moving them forward, but you're not doing the work for them. Awesome. Not the student's tutor. Yes, Faye. You are there to help connect them to tutors, right? To help them say like, hey, it sounds like it might be beneficial for you. You're there to like normalize using the tutoring center, but you're not the one who, you can't do the work for them. Absolutely. Katie, going off topic, right? You're not their friend. You're a friendly person in their life. And sometimes it helps to know a little bit about a student, but sometimes when coaches kind of veer off into like, you know, lots of friendship chatter, it can kind of move away from the primary topic that you're supposed to be helping them with, which is like navigating to or through college, depending on where they are.
I'll actually
go ahead.
provide a little bit of like, I think going off topic it depends on the topic. And it depends, but I would actually say if the student isn't stressed about something, but they're wanting to chat and you find you have something in common. I've seen some really lovely conversations about like anime or TV or sports. And I would actually say, I would encourage you to go off topic as long as it feels appropriate with students, like not to distract from if there's something that they should be talking to you about. But if that's wrapped up and you want to just chat about your lives, as long as it doesn't feel like you're veering into like an R-rated topic, something where you're like, I feel like kind of hairy talking about that with a student. Like, I think it's also, I would actually encourage you to find ways to connect socially if it comes up. But
I think that's great. Yeah, I think that's great, Nava. Thank you for that. And I would say that we're going to talk a little bit more about boundaries a little bit later to help you kind of understand what are topics we think you should, steer clear of. And I would also just say, like, to Nava's point, it can be really beneficial, and you're going to be balancing your time. Like, some messages will generate just a couple responses from students, and some messages will generate a lot of responses from students. And you're going to just have to juggle and balance your time. So sometimes you'll have time to have an off-topic conversation, and sometimes you won't. And using your program manager to help you be, norm around, like, whether this is an opportunity or not, like, can be a good thing. So sometimes you'll have the time, sometimes you won't. Nava, I love that comment. So do it when it works and when it makes sense. I'm going to keep us cruising so we can get to the rest of our content and also get to our next break. But this was great. Thank you all for jumping in and starting to like try on your role as a coach. And Nava, I pass it to you.
Yeah, this is now we're going to get ready to talk about responding to student messages or getting ready for that. And I'm going to pass it to Sarah.
All right. Next slide, please, guys. Awesome. So these are the steps that you'll take to get ready to respond to your students every week. So you'll want to brainstorm possible student responses to a message. You'll typically do this with your program manager during your check-in. Check the resource library or do some research and reflection for any related articles, guides, anecdotes, anything that might be helpful in your response with your students. And then talk through any questions that you have with your program manager. If a message is going out that you don't completely understand or you're not sure how you should respond, definitely talk it through with your program manager. Or if anything comes up as you're talking with students that you aren't sure about, talk about it with your program manager. So we will spend time in our weekly check-in to do this, and success coaches will do this with their success program manager. But for now, it'll be Audrey. And then I will pass it back to Nava.
All right, so now we're going to try out that first step, which is brainstorming possible student responses to a message. So I'd love if you could each take 30 seconds to read this text message, and then I'm going to be looking for 3 examples of how you think students might respond. 3 total, not 3 from each of you. And I'm going to add one bit of additional information. So this is a yes/no message. So basically, they're just going to get the message going up to reply, Y or N. When the student replies Y, they'll get the next line next to Y. And if the student replies N, they'll get those 2 paragraphs or 2 mini paragraphs beside the N. And so what I'm looking for are 3 examples for students who either get that Y follow-up or the N follow-up. What do you think they might say to those messages? So you could just come off mute or drop in the chat how you think a student would reply to either awesome, great job getting it done, or the stuff that ends with, let me know if there's anything I can do to help you get your FAFSA done. I'm seeing a couple of examples. I'm seeing N, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed and I don't know where to start. Exactly. Seeing a Y, thanks. And I see from generally, they could say that they haven't and that they are confused and need help. Yes, all of these make a ton of sense. After this, we are ready to go and check out the next slide. So the next step that you would do after you do that brainstorming is you would maybe take a swim through the resource library. So the resource libraries, like we've mentioned, there's one for transition for high school students, and there's one for success for college students. And going to these websites, ooh, it looks like you've been logged out of something, Grace, but also I can just talk about it. Well, this is a great moment for me to just talk. These were looking through these resource libraries was one of the steps on your to-do list. Basically, they're like libraries with a ton of different articles, tip sheets for different topics. Yep, there it is. They are organized by topic. You can also do a Control F and have the search bar pop up and just look for keywords. And this is a great place to go for your own learning and to share to send articles to students and to prep. So that's the resource library. Oh, I'm going to give you a tour of Mainstay. So I'm going to share my screen in just a second. And bring you onto my Mainstay.
While Nava does that, I just wanted to say one thing about the resource library. So for each of those resource libraries, those are resources that our team and other coaches have compiled that are like best in class, right? So there are thousands of resources about FAFSA online. And what we don't want you to necessarily do is just like start with a Google search, right? Like what we want you to do is ideally start with the resource library, see what's there, because somebody has like really vetted that. It feels like culturally responsive. It's really accurate. It's really up to date. And ideally, like you find something there. If you don't, obviously you Google and you use your best judgment. Sometimes you're going to like look for something specific to the SUNY system because that's what the kid's asking for. So Google can definitely be your friend. But the point of the resource library is that those are like highly vetted materials. And so that's why we've got that.
Absolutely. And I'm going to now orient you to Mainstay, our texting platform. So before I bring you here, I'll tell you, you're going to get access to your own accounts next Thursday or Friday. And there is a neat list of functions that I'll show you how to do today. And that that you would need to make sure that you knew how to do on your own late next week before you start working with students Monday the 28th. So right now I'm basically going to give you like a quick tour of Mainstay, and then you'll have time in about 9 days to confirm for yourself that you know where all of these things are. And here we are. So this is Mainstay. Welcome. So you can see here, there's a list of conversations with student names. You will only see the students that are your students. You see how some of them are bold and some of them are not, the student name and the message. And you can also see that the most recent messages that have come in are at the top, and you scroll back, they become older. So the ones in bold have been opened and the ones that are not in bold have not yet been opened. So that's how you can track which are read and which are unread. If you open a message and you see that it's read, or you open the message, but you're not ready to respond to it now, you're going to want to mark it unread, which would mean, well, first I'll orient you here. If you're opening a conversation, see the student's name, full name at the top. You can see, if you scroll back, you can see the message history. The messages from Let's Get Ready are on the right. The messages from the students are on the left. These messages that Mario has received are all, so because there's a little robot icon next to the gray messages, that shows that they're central messages. So these were messages scheduled by me that went out. If you'll see, I open a conversation and you see some of the messages in gray here. It says that Mohammed sent that message. If there's initials, it comes from a coach. Now, if you scroll back, you can see the whole history. There's other information about the student on the side. You can see the most relevant ones, or you can see the channel. So if you have students that are in different years, you'll be able to confirm, like, is it a first year? Is it a second year? You can see if the student is in college, you can see their college intending here. It cuts off, but if you open the pencil emoji, you can see the entire college name. Those are the main ones that you'll want to keep an eye out for. There's a couple of functions when you're looking at the student conversation that you'll want to know about. The first is this little flag. If you click on the flag, it flags the message. It's kind of the equivalent. You can see now that if you go to the left and you see the list of all conversations, that this conversation with Eurasia has a red flag next to it. So that's a way of making the conversation stand out in your inbox as you're scrolling through. You can flag an individual message, and if you flag multiple messages with a student in their conversation, you can jump between the flags by clicking up here where it says previous and next to the one flag. You can resolve a flag either by clicking resolve one flag on the top right corner of the conversation box, or you can just click on the flag and dismiss it. Flags can be seen by you and by your supervisor. The other thing that you can do if you click on the three blue dots next to a message is you can mark unread from that point, or you can escalate to email. If you want to send a conversation to your program manager, which there will be times where you'll want to do that we'll talk to you about, you'll click on escalate to email, and you'll click in the search bar and you'll look up your manager's name. So for some of you, that would be Sarah. For some of you right now, that would be Audrey. You'll click on that name and you can add a short blurb of like why you want to send them that message. Something like, I didn't know what to say to this student. Can you help me figure it out so that I can respond to them within 24 hours? Something like that, but in your own words. If you want to keep a conversation at the top of your inbox so that you can monitor it more frequently, say you're tracking that student closely, you'll click on the little thumbtack next to the student's name on the whole list of conversations. So it'll live at the top of your inbox. I'll pin this one just so you can see. You see now it shows up at the top. Your program manager won't be able to see pinned conversations. So they'll be for you, but if you want your program manager to know what you're tracking, you'll also want to write it down somewhere else so they can see. And to unpin, you'll just click on that thumbtack again. The other thing that you'll want to know how to do is to edit the contact profile. So you would click on that little pencil in the top right corner. The ones that you'll want to know how to change are one, first name. If the student says that they have, say, a preferred name that is different than their legal name, on Mainstay, you're just going to change the first name field. You're going to ignore the preferred name field. We don't need that at all. The reason it's important to change the first name field is because that is what we will insert into student messages. We never insert preferred name because it's usually blank. So if a student says, actually, I go by this name, you'll change it there. You'll also fill out a form for that will orient you to later. If a student says they don't want to receive messages anymore, you'll click on the SMS and you'll opt the student out. We don't try to change students' minds if they don't want to receive our messages. We just opt them out. The other one is if a student wants to be receiving our messages in a language other than English, you can change under the language to a language other than English. It'll also then translate their messages from that other language into English for you, and then you can send them responses in English that will get translated into that language. If it is a language that you speak and you want to talk to the student in a different language, you don't need to use this feature. but it could be nice to use so that they can get our curriculum messages in their preferred language. So that is how you use that function. And how to send a message. It's another thing I want to show you. So you can click on Start Live Chat, and you can type your message in here. You can either press enter or click on that little paper airplane and it'll send the message. If you're including a link in the message, which you often will, you will want to click on this little link symbol to the right of the puzzle and paste the link in there so that it shortens it into like a bit.ly, but it's a mainstay bit.ly. This makes it way less likely that it'll get blocked. And you'll also, if you want to include a picture of something or an emoji, you can use these. The last bit I'll say for now is that you don't want to put a link at the end of the message. You'll want to put something after it, like let me know if that was helpful, and you'll want to avoid using the word link in messages because the servers sometimes block things that sound a little bit like they could come from a bot. Last thing, anytime you make one of these changes to the contact profile, like we just talked about, like first name, or if they say they have an updated phone number, you'll always want to click save, because if you don't, it'll just forget and it won't remind you. And those are all the things that you'll need to know how to do before you start texting students on Mainstay. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but also, are there any questions that any of you have now before I stop sharing my screen?
Like any way to time your messages, like to schedule a message, or is that only something that like a PM can do?
That's a good question. That is only something a PM can do. So you can only send messages in the moment. If you have a message that I don't know what I was going to say. Yeah, you can, unfortunately. All right. Anything else?
I'm sure that once y'all get into Mainstay and you start poking around, questions will come up and you'll be able to talk that through with your program manager. But it is a pretty simple platform.
Oh yeah, Faye, this is not, you don't need to memorize all of this. It'll be written out for you.
Nava, I don't know that you mentioned this, or maybe you didn't, I'm sorry. Just to make sure that it's clear, these messages come into your laptop. So Mainstay is not like, they're not going to come to your cell phone like the way that the rest of the text messages do. So what coaches do is they just sort of allocate like, hey, I know I need to follow that 24-hour rule. So like, this is the, half an hour that I'm setting aside on Tuesday, and I'm going to sit down with my computer and I'm just going to kind of go through that inbox more like an email. Just to make sure that that's clear. Amazing. Nava, I think we're ready for break time. Sarah, what do you think? Are we ready? All right, let's do it. So we're doing great on time. And so what I'd love to do is give everyone 8 minutes. I'm going to give everyone a bonus. So 8 minutes, we'll come back here at 4 o'clock on the dot. And we'll get started again on the last section of our training.
The recording looks like it's on again. Is that correct?
Okay. Yep.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna launch the polls. And I'll let Sarah talk.
Thanks, Nava. Awesome. I hope y'all had a great time discussing this with your group. So now these polls are going to be launched for each of the scenario. Please just pick one of the choices that y'all discussed, and then just hit submit, and then we'll talk through them. Can you all see the polls? Okay, cool. And then once it looks like everyone's answered, if you can just share it. Awesome, thank you. Okay. So the first scenario was a student shares that they're frustrated with their roommate. They keep arguing and can't agree on room rules. And so you've provided lots of resources and support, and they're just increasingly getting more frustrated. So the correct answer for scenario 1 would be the blue option. So you all got that correct. To take a note, unless you truly don't know how to respond, then you can email your PM for guidance, but just to take a note and discuss it with your PM during your check-in. So for the second scenario, a student makes a comment or joke that makes you uncomfortable. However, even after you express your discomfort to them, they continue to make the same comments. So the correct answer for this one is red, which you all got correct. Awesome. So let your program manager know right away. Me or Audrey can take over the situation from there, so you don't have to worry about that. And then for scenario 3, a student is worried that they may not graduate high school on time and isn't sure who to go to at their school to find out. So the answer for, oh, it looks like there's a tie. So the answer for this one is to take a note, so blue, and make a plan with your PM at your next check-in, unless the conversation reaches a point where you don't know how to respond on your own, so you'll want to email your PM. So definitely a toss-up.
Sarah, sorry to jump in, but one thing I just wanted to say is, like, if you were one of the people who said red, like, there's no harm in reaching out to your PM, right? Like, it's not an emergency. You don't have to call the CEO. Do you know what I mean? But it is, like, if you feel worried about it, if your gut says, like, I really want my PM to weigh in on this right away, that's okay. Like, err on the side of letting your PM know right away if you were on the kind of red side of it. And then you and your PM can work on, like, norming in the future around, like, what's the right level of urgency, but follow your gut. Like, you know what I mean? If something's telling you to reach out to your PM right away, that's always the right thing to do.
Thanks, Grace. Yeah, definitely for this scenario 3, it could also depend on the situation. So if it's like May and they're like, hey, I think I'm gonna fail, you might want to notify your PM sooner than later so we can figure it out. Awesome. So number 4, your student has disclosed that they are being stalked by someone at school. Y'all said yellow. Yes, that's absolutely correct. Make sure that you don't stop until you reach a Let's Get Ready staff member. We want to make sure that the student is safe and okay. Awesome. So thank you all so much for that activity, completing the activity. And now we'll move on to slide 39. So some things are emergencies. The student safety escalation and reporting is a great resource for you to familiarize yourself with, and to reference later. There is a guide for transition and one for success. We also have a tip sheet for coaches regarding student mental health and safety that you should familiarize yourself with now. So some things are emergencies. So the contact information below is descending order. If you're working with high school students, you'll start with me, then Liz, then Grace, and then finally Lena. And similarly with success, you'll start with your PM, Audrey, then Grace, and finally Lena. If at whatever reason none of these people pick up, go on to Let's Get Ready website, start emailing everyone, call any number you see on there, and just, make sure you get in contact with someone. But at the very least, I know the first couple people you call will definitely pick up. But just don't stop until you have someone to talk about this emergency with. And then now I'll pass it back to Nava to talk about inappropriate messages.
Yeah, absolutely. So these have been referenced a tiny bit, but sometimes students send inappropriate messages. Almost always this is going to be because they assume that they're texting with a robot, which a lot of students do assume. Not most, but you will encounter that throughout the year. Or because they are trying to stop receiving our messages, in the same way that sometimes if I get a scam call, I will be peeved and say something kind of grouchy to the robot on the other end. Our students have sometimes a similar response to our text messages. Almost always also they're from students who haven't engaged before. So all of that is to say, these inappropriate messages are never directed at you as an individual. They're always just going to come like at Let's Get Ready, but you're the person receiving them. So we want to build out a clear system of what to do to kind of further emphasize that it is not you receiving these messages like personally, and therefore it is not on you personally to deal with the responses if you don't want to. So ideally, when students send inappropriate message, ideally like responding to these messages isn't like a big part of your job. And we're not endorsing, like, we want to make sure that you are equipped to deal with like an angry customer kind of thing. It's more that we want to make sure that there are these systems in place so that you can have as much space as possible. So depending on how you feel, you might feel personally affected, or you might have like a pretty solid emotional boundary where you get these messages, you are maybe lightly entertained by them, or just like comfortable navigating the conflict that comes. I've seen coaches fall all across that spectrum, coaches that are super comfortable handling the messages themselves, and coaches that forwarded them directly to me every time because it stressed them out to get them. So we set up a protocol for the maximum amount of buffer so that coaches just forward them to their PMs and don't deal with them. But a lot of coaches say, actually, I want less buffer than that. I'd rather deal with them myself. So what you're going to do is read through the inappropriate message procedure doc. It's on your checklist. Do some reflection on what kind of support you think you might need from your PM for this part of the role, to say, where on that spectrum from sending it to the PM to dealing with it myself do I fall? And then be ready to discuss it in your training week check-in. If you go to the next slide, please, we're ready to talk about keeping track of student situations. So each week there's going to be students that you keep track of for a variety of reasons. The top category, the most common, the least severe, are just students where you want to kind of keep an extra eye on what's going on. So this happens most weeks. There will be at least one student in this category, sometimes several, sometimes more. These might be students where they're kind of in like the yellow light zone. There's something going on where you're a little worried that it could mean that reading between the lines in the future, they might have issues with continuing their education. They just might be having a hard time. Mental health struggles, not severe, but just you can tell they're kind of down. The next category are students where you're not sure how to respond and you want to ask your PM for guidance. So you'll track these in your check-in docs, but we would also encourage you to reach out to your PM about it sooner if it's not within 24 hours of your check-in, so you're not leaving those students unanswered in the meantime. These happen less often, mostly towards the beginning of the year when you're figuring out more about what you're going to feel confident saying to students in various situations. The last bit are students in crisis. Most of you will not encounter this at all, but some of you might once, maybe twice. And so we set up a really thorough procedure, the one that Sarah just talked through with you, so that if and when this comes up for you, there is no question what you need to do. You will not feel on your own. You really know exactly what to do to hand it off to someone who can help you with it. And these might be students either that are struggling with mental health, physical health, access to basic resources for wellness, anything where you're not sure about their safety and wellness. It's important to document all of these kinds of situations in your check-in docs so that you and your PM can be on the same page about it. And that's student situations. The last bit is pathways. So we referenced this early in the presentation, but it's been a while. So basically, anytime a student either changes their enrollment status, meaning they're deciding to take time off, or they've been taking time off and they're returning, you're going to want to talk to your program manager, because it would mean that they should be probably in a different student group than the one they're currently in. Also, anytime a student is in a different part of their college journey. So like I said, if someone's in the high school channel, but they talk about being in college, or vice versa, you'd want to let your PM know so that you can make sure the student gets moved. And there's a really thorough guide to this that is also on the list of resources for you to check out in the coming week or two.
You have gotten a lot of information from us. I'm going to share a brief little summary just to make sure that all these details, you'll have the slides, you'll have the recordings, you'll have your program manager. At the end of the day, I want to make sure that everybody understands that you're doing a very important job, and there's a lot of people behind you who are here to support you. We want you to have a great experience as a program manager and as an employee. And we want you always to err on the side of reaching out if you have any trouble or any questions. What I want to make sure that you know is that, like, yes, your program manager is your go-to person. So that's Sarah, if you're working with high school students. That is Audrey for now, until the new program manager is hired on the college side. And they're your go-to, right? Like, always move your questions to them. But also, I want to remind you in this moment that you're part of a much larger organization. And so sometimes, like, you might have a concern with your direct person, like with your program manager, and so just like remember that you can always reach out to them, but there's also a larger organization here. In a few minutes, you're going to get introduced to one of our human resources team members, and you've met me and you've met Audrey, and you'll meet Liz if you work on the high school side soon, who supervises Sarah. Just like want to remind you that you're part of a much larger organization, and there's resources kind of even beyond your program manager if you were to need it. We want you to share feedback. Most of the reason why, like, that inappropriate message policy that Nava just explained, like, that exists because a coach was having an issue and raised it with their program manager, and that coach and Nava worked it out together, and then Nava brought it to me. We take coach feedback incredibly seriously. We want you to have an absolutely incredible experience at Let's Get Ready as a coach, because you're the reason why this program works. You're the reason why our students come back, and why they answer these messages, and why they get the support they need. So just know that there's a big support network behind you. And amazing timing. We're going to have one more slide, and then I'm going to introduce you to Jaleesa, who just joined the call. Hey, Jaleesa. So last slide, one thing that, coaches have told us time and time again is that it's hard to be a coach and a college student at the same time. So Sarah's going to share some tips and some thoughts that we've collected from coaches and program managers over time, things to think about as you think about managing your life and balancing the parts of this role and your other parts of your life.
Thanks, Grace. And these are definitely suggestions, strong suggestions. But if you have things that work better for you, definitely go off of that. But we anticipate that it will take between 5 to 8 hours a week for you to prepare and respond to your student messages. So definitely breaking up those hours throughout your week in your calendars, setting time aside. So you'll have about 30 to 40. You'll have a 30 to 45 minute weekly check-in with your supervisor. Write down any questions or challenges in advance to prepare for this, and then use your Google Calendar to schedule text platform monitoring. So when you will be checking messages and responding to messages, and then replying within 24 hours is very important, like we mentioned before, and communicating with me or Audrey quickly if any emergencies come up, or if you can't respond within 24 hours. And then messages will go out on the day that works best for you, because that's the day that you'll have time to respond right away to most of the messages coming in. And so during our check-in, you'll decide on the day for this. And then now I'll pass it over to Jaleesa.
Welcome, Jaleesa. I'd love to have you go ahead and introduce yourself, and let me know if you want me to stop screen sharing.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Grace. And yes, if you can, I will share my screen. I do have a little slideshow, but thank you all for having me today. My name is Jaleesa Scruggs, and I am the Senior People Manager here at Let's Get Ready. And I'm so excited to speak with you all today and share a little bit about HR. So I'm going to share my screen. It's been a while, actually, since I've used Zoom, so I'm excited to remember the fun process of navigating it. But does everybody see my screen? You can give me a thumbs up, or let me see if I can see. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Good deal. Well, again, I'm so excited to speak with you about HR and people. I'm going to keep this brief. I took out my pop quizzes pieces just so I can make sure I fly through the information. So sorry if it's not as exciting as it usually may be, but I want to make sure everybody gets the nuts and bolts of what we need to go over today. So we'll start with a quick overview of the HR team. We'll talk a little bit about the referral program. I'll briefly talk to you all about scams and phishing because it is at an all-time high and we want to make sure we're doing what we need to be protected. We'll talk about the important stuff that is JustWorks, payroll, and time cards. And then we will do a wrap up of just additional information and wrap it up with Q&A. However, I am not at all formal. So if you have questions, feel free to ask while I'm going through the information. But then you can always just pop it in the chat as well. So a little bit about our team. My name is Jaleesa Scruggs. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been with Let's Get Ready for about 7 months now, although it seems longer in Let's Get Ready time. And I am excited to be able to partner with Theo Thompson. He's our Managing Director of People and Operations. And as you all received this slide deck, you have our contact information here. So feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions regarding anything that we go through today or just HR items in general. We also provided our general HR email address here for you all to view. And I don't actually think it's included in your slide deck, but I will share this with Grace and Nava and they will add it in. Referral program. So we always like to mention that you all do have the opportunity to make some extra money by referring your amazing friends, because we know you're amazing, to come and work at Let's Get Ready. So it's very easy. If you know someone that's a great fit for one of our coach positions, our instructor positions, or even our full-time roles, we want you to refer them. All you have to do is just make sure that you tell them to go ahead and apply, share the link with them, make sure they put your first and last name in the application. And you have the opportunity to earn a $100 gift card if they are brought onto the team. They do have to stay with us for at least 2 months, and then you will be eligible to receive that referral bonus or referral gift card. To be eligible, you do have to be a current employee or have left LGR within the last 3 months of referring that hired employee. So just some FYIs there, but we want to encourage you to, again, invite your great friends to come and work with us. So scams and phishing. You all have probably been hearing about it just personally, if not professionally, that scammers and phishing are at an all-time high. So briefly, we want to talk about what is scamming, what is phishing, and just how to be mindful of it, especially as a Let's Get Ready employee. But I think, again, this is applicable even personally. So scammers like to use emails and text messages to try to steal your personal information, whether it's your passwords, your account information, your social security number. So what they would like to do is they usually will send you some type of email and may say, hey, we noticed you just ordered a package from FedEx and we want to make sure it arrives to you. Click this link and give us your bank information and we can look up your route, your tracking number. It'll be something, like that they will, ask in an email or in a text message to get your information. Versus the phishing emails, they are usually an attachment of some sort that they want you to open up. The messages might say something that's just suspicious. I've actually heard that one was sent to my mother-in-law that was, I'm stranded. I need some money for a plane ticket. It can be very personal to just general. We've also seen it come from Lena as a CEO, and here's this invoice we need you to pay. Can you click on it and just provide me with your bank information and take care of this for the business? I want you all to know that Lena will never ask you to cover any of Let's Get Ready's bills. You'll never have to pay those. And if you just see anything like that, we're going to kind of talk about what do you do? So how do you protect yourself? Make sure that you keep your cell phones and your computers updated with the latest software. A lot of those software updates include additional security screenings. Use multi-factor authentication just to make sure that you can authenticate your own identity multiple times, whether it's through your email or your cell phone. Read email addresses thoroughly. I always kind of just hover over the link. And if you hover over the link and you see it's a weird website and it's not Amazon and it's not FedEx and it's not Google and it's just a lot of different letters, don't click on it. If you see that the email address is weird, don't respond, don't click on it. You'll click the 3 dots on the upper left hand of the email, select report phishing, tell your manager, or email Theo Thompson at letsgetready.org. So those are the instructions for that. Quick and easy. If it's a text message, you actually can easily see report and delete. So that's usually the option that can come up for you to make sure you don't respond to those. That is the nuts and bolts of scams and phishing. Any questions on that before we get into the fun stuff of JustWorks? Okay, I'm gonna take the silence as we've got it. So now going into JustWorks, you all have pretty much, I think everyone has received an email from JustWorks. And most of you, I think with the exception of a couple, are pretty much done enrolling. If you haven't done so yet, before you wrap up today, take the 5 to 10 minutes, complete your registration for JustWorks, complete your I-9 portion. Those items are important to ensure that we have you set up so that you can get paid. JustWorks is our HR information system that we use for payroll, timesheets, all of your personal information. We use that to know where to send your W-2 forms. So you want to make sure you go in, set up your account, set up your banking information, and then that way you're going to log in there, and that's where you'll go and fill out your time cards. Heads up, you do get paid for participating in this training today. So you want to go ahead and put those first hours into your time card. The time cards do have to be completed at a certain time to ensure that you are paid on time. We recommend you complete it weekly. That way you don't wait until it catches up to you at the end. The exciting news, because you guys are probably everybody's wondering, when are we going to get our first paycheck? You get your first paycheck on September 1st. So your time cards are due on August 25th. By end of business on Friday. Your time cards are always going to be due on a Friday so that your manager can approve them on a Monday. So you do want to make sure you're following those deadlines. You're paid on a bi-weekly cycle here at Let's Get Ready. So again, if you haven't finished enrolling, make sure you do. Once you get in, you'll see you have access to a time card. It looks something like this. It's very easy. You put in your hours for the pay period. And once you are done putting them in, again, we recommend you do that weekly. When it's time for you to submit them on that Friday, you want to make sure you hit the submit button. Submitting it will actually send it to your manager to approve it for you. So once you put those hours in, you'll hit submit. It'll be sent to your manager for them to approve it to ensure you were paid. If you don't do it on time, we hope that never happens. Let's Get Ready is always going to pay you. It's just that it will delay your pay. And we don't want that. We want you to be paid on time. So just make sure you put it in your calendar, wherever kind of helps you, or whether it's your calendar on your phone and your email, whatever helps kind of give you those reminders, go ahead and set that up for yourself. We also encourage you to make sure that you update your contact information in JustWorks. Make sure that your phone number, your email address, your home address, everything is accurate. Again, when we share this deck with you, there'll be a link to instructions for how to complete that. You should be able to go in, make sure everything is accurate so that way we have the most accurate way to get in touch with you. And then additional information. Usually we get questions like, I can't access my account. I'm locked out because I changed my phone number and now my multi-factor authentication process doesn't work. Can you assist? Because those are security items, we cannot actually assist as admins. You do have to reach out directly to JustWorks. And also they're helpful if you're having banking information or issues and you need to, put a new routing and account number. So they can very much so help you with that. So I'll share that information with you. You all have also been assigned sexual harassment training in JustWorks to complete. That has to be completed by August 25th. It's the easy day because that's when your first time card is due. So August 25th is an important day to remember. So you'll want to complete that. It only takes about an hour. Really important information to know. JustWorks does have a mobile app, but only for you to view your time cards and your pay stubs. You cannot enter your time through the app, but you can see, hey, did I remember to enter my time this week? You can look on the app and then go, if you didn't, you can log in on the web to input your time. Reminders to submit your timesheets. Again, the first one is due August 25th. Submit onboarding documentation. If any of you are still missing I-9 documents, that has to be done within your first 3 days of hire. So if you're missing it and you received one of those beautiful emails from me from the HR email, please make sure you get that over. In addition, we also sent you emails we didn't, but you would have gotten an email from the Google Space team Google Workspace team to go ahead and set up your LGR email. If you don't have access to that email, the link expired, send an email to the HR email address, and we can go ahead and send you another link to that. But you all should have that as well. So you have a couple of emails from us if you haven't set that up. And then and along with that Gmail, you want to make sure once you log in that you set up your two-factor identification process immediately. And that is my spiel. So I know I'm a little over 10 minutes, so I will leave very little time for Q&A, but I know that Grace and Nava will also let me know if anything pops up. And you all can always reach out to me via email or chat or however you need me, I'm around.
Jaleesa, there are like maybe 2 or 3 minutes in case
Okay.
anybody has any absolutely burning questions, and then we'll try to wrap this section up right at 4:45.
Okay, great. I
And,
do see.
You
Faye
had
has a
one question from Faye. I hope I answered it right, but essentially any moment you're spending working on Let's Get Ready Work, you're putting in your time card.
Absolutely. That is correct, Grace. When you're working, we want to pay you. So make sure you put it in.
I
I
see
And
a
have
I
a
think a
question.
hand.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so I already have an account because I had another position at the company. So I was just wondering about the Just Works sexual harassment training. Would I still have to complete it?
Only if you didn't complete it before. So if I
Okay.
see that you didn't complete it back in your when you were first hired, it does need to be completed annually, or it's outside of that year span, then I did reassign it. So you'll see it if it's a pending training in there, that means you didn't complete it before, or it's been outside of that year cycle.
Thank you.
Good question. You're welcome. Yes, Katie, they will. So I'll go ahead and share them with Grace and Nava and or Sarah. I'll share it with the team and they will incorporate it so you all will receive a copy. Well, good questions. Welcome to the team, new core coaches. We're so excited to have you at Let's Get Ready. And again, if you need anything at all, Jaleesa Scruggs is my name. I'm here to assist.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jaleesa, for joining us. And
Of course.
I'm going to jump back in and share my screen. Amazing. All right, friends, we are in the last 15 minutes of this training. You guys have been doing amazingly. And we are in the wrapping up section of the training officially. So just so everyone sees that we're there in the slides. All right, and I'm going to pass it to Nava.
Yeah, so we've been talking about core all evening, well, actually all afternoon. And we'd love to hear what some things you're feeling, what things are making you feel excited for this role. So you can do a couple of things. You can head over to that link. You can take out your phone and scan the little QR code. We can also drop that link in the chat. And thank you, Sarah. And then we'll be able to see answers. I think, Grace, if you go to that link, you'll be able to share your screen. And once the results come in, you might have to submit an answer, but that would be okay. Oh, actually, I can share my answer. Sorry.
Sorry, now.
No, it's fine. I didn't realize that until right now that I could just do it.
Now everyone saw my answers, though.
I know. We all know. They're good answers. Here are the answers for real. I'm seeing sharing experiences, warm tone, sharing empathy, learning, meeting new people, helping students, empowering students, supporting students, empathetic, community. Now it's moving fast and I'm struggling to keep up, but I think learning is new. Cool. These all look great. Now I'll stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to really quickly, for like 3 minutes, talk about some of my favorite things about the core program. If you could please share that slide. So there are so many things that make core magical, but here are just a couple that we already love and know and love, and you'll discover more throughout your time here with us. The first is that students are in charge of what their experience in core is like. So it's really just unusual in the field of college access to provide students with the level of support that we do, one-on-one support, without asking anything of them in return. There's no performance data. Students are encouraged to respond, but never required. That there's obviously huge benefits to accountability, and students can opt into our higher accountability models. But to have this as an alternative for students who don't want that is really cool and unusual. The other thing is, because of this model, we can support a huge amount of students at once, 17,000 students with only 8 coaches working part-time. And that's because only a small percentage of students, between 0.5 and 5%, basically respond to any given message. That means that in the meantime, we can then cast a really wide net. So there are now 17,000 students that know that anytime they are in a pickle, they can reach us, but at any given time, coaches are working a very normal amount of hours. We also might be able to reach students who are uncomfortable turning anywhere else for help because we are through text, because we don't require follow-up, and because they're talking with a peer. So students who hate having to place a phone call, are scared of their professors, don't want to open up to their family and friends about their issues, we're like a very, very alternative option that a lot of people's like general anxieties like wouldn't impact their ability to utilize a core coach, and that's special. And last but not least, each time a student sends a little response, it's an opening for a deeper, more extended conversation about school, about life, depending on the topic. And it's a chance for students to just feel like there's someone who cares, there's someone on this journey with them. And that kind of shadow presence of the coach in the phone at all times can do really a lot for students. And we're excited that you get to be a part of that.
And I just want to add a fun fact. I was also a core coach, and I was also a success and transition coach. So I've kind of done a little bit of everything, and I have to say 17,000 does sound overwhelming and a lot, but really you have a handful of students that you will talk with consistently. And I'm not gonna lie, I had favorite students. You're not supposed to, I know teachers aren't supposed to, but everyone does. And I had my handful of favorite students, and it was such an awarding time. So definitely look forward to it. So on the next few slides, I'll be going over things that are on your onboarding checklist. But just to re-emphasize them here, and also offer a time if any of y'all have any questions about any of these things. So this is before our first check-in, and it should be about 30 minutes of work. So completing your identity wheel and reading the article before training number 2, which is the culturally responsive training tomorrow or Thursday, depending on if you're transition or success. And then reading through the inappropriate message procedure, and being prepared to discuss your preferences. Reading through the escalation guide for college students or high school students, and writing down any questions that you have, making a list of all the questions for today's training, and then letting me or Audrey know whether you'd prefer a Monday or Tuesday weekly message. And make sure that all of your week of 8-14 tasks are complete. So this is all to be done before your first check-in. And then the next slide is all the tasks you'd need to do before your first message goes out on the 28th. So complete the Finding My Voice reflection, logging into Mainstay and familiarizing yourself with the inbox and its various features, so writing down any questions that you have. You should have access to this by next Thursday or Friday. Keep an eye out for an email from Let's Get Ready. To your Let's Get Ready account. And then review the pathways document and write down any questions that you have, review the wrong numbers protocol, and making sure that you're familiar with the success or transition and resource library. And then we will see you all in our second training tomorrow at 12 to 1:30 for success, or Thursday at 11:30 to 1 for transition. Are there any questions? Katie asked for the time card for our training today. Should we include the breaks in our hours or exclude them?
Include.
Any other questions?
We expect that you probably each have 100 questions. Like that would be very normal in this moment. So just know that this is designed. Sure, we're here. We can answer questions for the next 8 minutes. Like, cool, no problem. But the next few weeks of your life are literally designed with these check-ins and another check-in before you're ever talking to students. It's designed for your questions to come over time. So just know that it's okay that you don't have burning questions right now or you don't feel comfortable. But let's use the next couple minutes. I'd love to hear a question from each person or a comment, anything that's jumping out at you already.
Katie has another question. She asked if or when they will get the email for their Let's Get Ready emails. Lisa isn't here, so I'm not sure.
I think soon. I would say this week. It's like in process. Just keep an eye out in your spam for like on your personal email, because I've had important Let's Get Ready stuff get taken by my Gmail, my personal Gmail. So just keep an eye there.
Faye said that they had to email HR to receive theirs and was able to log in today. So if you don't see anything in your spam or in your inbox, definitely feel free to reach out to HR about anything too. And then we also added HR slides to the training, so you can also feel free to review that. Any other comments? Is anyone concerned about anything, excited about anything? Okay. Amanda asked, they're expected to work 5 to 8 hours a week. Does this include the weekend? No, it doesn't have to, but if you let's say like your class schedule and all your clubs and sports are like super busy one week and you ended up just working on Saturdays and Sundays, completely fine. You can definitely do that. But work at your own pace and how you want it, really. Nava, if you have any additional
Yeah. So generally, because the weekly message is going to go out on a Monday or a Tuesday, it is very unlikely that you will have much to do by Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But it would ask, or it's important, like, because of the 24-hour rule does include the weekends. So generally the way the pace of your week is that you'll have the most work on either Monday, Tuesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, like basically the 48 hours after your big weekly message goes out. By the weekend, typically coaches will check. Maybe there's a couple messages, maybe there's none. And because checking and budgeting out, maybe I will need 15 minutes for this is a thing. Like we'd say anytime you're like checking on the weekend, you should still log 15 minutes for it, even if it takes you 30 seconds. But yes, it includes the weekend in that the 24-hour rule extends through all 7 days.
Thank you, Nova. Kimera had a question about JustWorks. So they are currently an Access instructor, and their JustWorks account still says that they are an Access instructor, but today's their last day. Will it change soon? I am assuming so. And if you don't see any changes or are curious about this, definitely reach out to HR because they can definitely make that change from their end.
I just want to pull out something that Nava just said a minute ago. And because there have been a lot of questions about this during this session, like we really mean it. Like we want you to put on your time card the time that you work at Let's Get Ready. And it's not down to the increment of minutes. Like, do you know what I mean? So like it down to 1 minute or 2 minutes. Like you thought about this message that you're about to reply to a student, you reply to them, it took you 13 minutes. Like you're putting the 15-minute block in there. Do you know what I mean? Like, absolutely. I don't mean like, oh, I like randomly thought about a kid as I was on a walk, but like if you're planning out a response, if you're writing an email to Sarah or Audrey to follow up on something, if you're prepping for a check-in by getting all of your students' names organized and pulling them out of Mainstay, like that is all work at Let's Get Ready. Like imagine you were like in a shift at a job where you show up in person, like it's the same for this. Like we want you to do the important work we're asking you to do, and we absolutely want that to show up on your timesheet. So just want to like make sure to keep pulling that out.
All right, thank you all so much for joining us today. I know this was a very long 3 hours, but I appreciate you all for sitting through it. I definitely look forward to working with you this year as your program manager, and Audrey will be there for a little bit until you get your success program manager. So definitely looking forward to it, and I will see you all on Thursday, and then tomorrow or Thursday.
Is everybody clear which day they're coming to? If anyone's got questions about that, feel free to stay behind. But otherwise, thank you so much from all of us at Let's Get Ready. We're so glad you've joined us. We're so glad you were with us for today's training. And we can't wait for the really important work you're going to do with students. So have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thanks everyone so much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.